on the rocks. The tide had turned, judging by the stretch of glistening wet sand between the shingle and the water. She was glad. She hadn't bothered to check the tide tables. She would accept the sea however she found it, she had decided. She only had this evening after all, and who knew when she would be next here. Letty was way ahead by now. She had sensed the sea and scampered away as soon as they'd come through the little wooden gate. It was rough after the storm, and the waves champed at the rocks on either side of the cove, rocky arms reaching out to embrace the ocean. The waves hit, bursting into the air in shocking spouts of boiling spume. Marcy sat on the large slab of rock beneath the cliff and removed her shoes, tucked them in the hollow beneath the slab as she had always done, even though there was no other soul upon the beach. Thank God, she thought. Letty was muzzling through the dry seaweed at the highest water mark, the level to which the tide only occasionally reached. Marcy watched her, smiled at the springer's boundless enthusiasm for old plastic bottles, bits of driftwood, clumps of dry bladderwrack. But when Marcy saw that Letty had picked up the carcass of a dead seabird, she stood up and called her. "Letty, drop it!" The dog stood, ears cocked, the corpse dangling from her mouth, and eyed Marcy with curious expectation. Her tail beat the sand. "Drop it!" Marcy shouted again, and unbelievably Letty did as she was told, and came running towards Marcy, her tongue lolling out to one side. But the dog was distracted by an old partially deflated football behind a rock. She allowed herself to veer off and investigate. "I swear this dog's got ADHD, muttered Marcy. She walked down towards Letty, but the animal headed off again before Marcy came close. Marcy walked onto the water and edged her toes into the last receding vestiges of the most recent wave. The freezing December water chilled and thrilled her feet, sending spikes of ice up the backs of her legs and into her spine. She felt the skin tighten across her scalp. She stepped out into the water a little further so that the next wave covered her feet completely, climbed up her ankles and calves. Again, the thrill of the bitter ice gripped her. The tide was receding fast now, though. With every wave she had to step further out into the freezing water to repeat the scouring of her feet. She lost herself in memories of times past when she had been here before. Summers of ice cream and sun lotion, rainy autumn walks with Gran, and countless visits with Letty and Bill before her, just to let the sea and the breeze cleanse her. When she looked up again, she saw him, sat on the rocks. Cal, 50 yards away. My God, it's Cal! When did I last see him? Not since school. She'd gone to college. He'd stayed to work for his dad on the lobster pots. Their brief liaison at the end of school hadn't lasted beyond her first term. He hadn't seen her yet. She wanted to shout a hello, but at the same time she wanted to hide behind the waves and sneak away. This was her time. She didn't feel like chatting, making uncomfortable small talk. But although he wasn't looking at her now, he must have seen her come down across the beach. She couldn't just pretend she hadn't seen him, could she? Couldn't just walk away back up the beach. But no, it wasn't fair. She needed this time here to get her brain straight before she had to go again. She wouldn't cut it short. She couldn't. She'd have to say hello, a quick hello, and then leave him to it. Needn't be a big deal. She looked over at him, expecting him to sense her attention so that she could wave, but he didn't move. His eyes were fixed out to sea. At least that's where he seemed to be looking. Marcy spotted Letty running down towards him, but as Letty got closer she stopped. Marcy could see her fur bristling. Letty snarled, curled her lip back and started to bark, loudly, ferociously, barking at Cal. Marcy had no choice. "Letty, shut up!" She started to run over towards her. What had come over her? She wasn't usually aggressive, didn't usually make a fuss around anyone, even the postman. "Shut up, Letty!" Marcy smashed through the freezing waves, the icy water splashing up into her face. "Stop it, you silly dog! It's only Cal, look!" Letty was still tense, growling and barking. Marcy lunged at her and grabbed her collar. "Shush now, shush!" She turned towards Cal. "I'm so sorry, Cal. She's not normally like—" She looked up at him, but he was gone. "What? Where has he gone, Letty?" She felt strangely shocked by his sudden disappearance. He couldn't... how? She scanned the beach. Nothing. He couldn't have got past her in that short time. Letty was calmer now. Marcy sensed her relax. She let go of her collar. Letty immediately lay down on the sand, panting. Marcy left her and started to walk back along the water's edge, her eyes scanning to and fro as she walked. How bizarre! A sudden ice-cold shiver ran up her back again as she let her eyes follow the arm of rocks out to where Cal had been looking. Then she saw it. The broken prow of a small wooden dinghy, a little way further out, tossed up onto the rocks. Close by, a tangle of ropes and lobster pots, an orange life jacket. Between two rocks she seemed to be looking at brown hair, the head wedged between the two, and on the sides of the rock a severe flash of crimson.